Sweet Christmas.
Shout out to my birds.
Hello. This is Che.
This is Cory.
And this is the Next Time On podcast, a podcast where two lifelong friends discuss all things amazing and all things fetid in popular culture. It would be like if Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe teamed up to ruin your favorite comic books instead of ruining French football. Is that fair, Cory?
Yeah, sure. I don't fucking know. Yeah, sure.
You've heard of Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe.
I've heard about them.
Surely.
I just like, you could just say two soccer players and then say ruining some part of soccer. And I can't tell you what the fuck you're talking about. Every year I feel like I'm hearing some other leagues getting ruined by some shit, and I don't know anything. So
to be completely fair, it's not entirely their fault that they're just better than everybody else. It is their fault, much like Kevin Durant and flat earther vaccination denier Kyrie Irving and strip club connoisseur James Harden, that they teamed up together.
Played 16 games.
It is. Should we just become a sports podcast for 5 minutes and talk about how fucking insane it is that James Harden just is on the 76ers now? Yeah,
that was a weird week of being like, he's definitely not going anywhere. Then I'm like, oh yeah, he's on the Sixers now. By the way, you have Ben Simmons. Congrats.
Such an. I mean, I'm fascinated to see if it works out for either teams. I weirdly suspect, despite how insane this was, that it's going to be like, it's going to work out for both of them. I think they both came out of this better than they were before, which is annoying. But
I think that's actually very true. It's just like, it's hard to do something when one of your players is a fucking idiot.
I used to like Ben Simmons so much. I don't understand his play.
I was talking about Kyrie, but
yes.
I think
Kyrie Irving being an idiot is like a given, though. It's basically his brand.
I'm more upset that Ben Simmons is abusing the whole mental health thing to just get out of a fucking contract.
I mean, it might be the case that he is really struggling and really needs therapy. But
I'm sure he does, but I think this is very clearly this is a punk ass move. That's what I think is happening.
Yes. There's also plenty of people who need therapy who go to work every day.
Yeah, exactly.
But what are you gonna do? All right. Well, this is not a sports podcast.
Both of us.
Despite how much I would love to talk about French football and Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons, we are a comic books, TV, movie podcast. If this is your first time checking us out, really appreciate it. Go. Don't forget to subscribe, of course, and go rate us 5 stars on all your preferred podcast platforms. If you are listening to us on Spotify, you can now rate us 5 stars as well, and that's really helpful. You can also follow us at Next Time On Pod on all the social media platforms. I'm sort of getting better at tweeting things. I'm trying. Every time I open the website, I get angry, and I'm trying to just tamp that rage down.
Yeah, no, it just sucks. I just hate that. I don't know what the hell you're interacting with, Che, but I'm tired of getting pushed all of these freaking.
The thing is, I don't interact.
The active fan accounts keep and I'm like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, I saw the smallest little thing. It was like, oh, look at this. Like, there's a crystal in the back of Doctor Strange. That means Inhumans are confirmed. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Come on. And I was like, I'm more upset that Twitter's like, hey, you want to see? No, I don't want to see that shit.
As you can see, we both really
want to
hate
make
social media.
I can just make shit up and get famous, apparently. Whatever. Fuck it.
I was thinking about the other day. We should probably be on TikTok, but let's be very clear about this.
Absolutely not.
We will never be on TikTok, guys.
I'm nope. That's the one thing I'll co-sign with Che on. Like, for 100%, we'll never be on TikTok.
I do not fuck with TikTok. I know it makes me sound like an old ass man. I do not care.
I'm cool.
All right. Well, we've got a pretty jam-packed episode. Oh wait, before we get into it, announcing next week is going to be our book club, our all good book club, and it is the N.K. Jemisin book Far Sector from last year, so not all that old.
No, not that old.
Quite good. And later in March, we will be doing our Curse of the Rewatch on Bulletproof Monk, which is just going to be a delight. I cannot wait. That movie. I remember like very little about it, except for that it's patently ridiculous. Sean William Scott like does kung fu.
Who decided that was a good idea?
The guy from American Pie does kung fu.
Yeah, no. Who decided that's a good idea?
Wasn't me. But let's oh Jesus. Cory, we're gonna have to run this on the fly. You're gonna have to tell me what your elevator pitch is before we get into it.
That's really unfair because I completely forgot that we're supposed to be doing that right now.
we didn't really do our professional work before this, but that's okay. I'll start the elevator pitch, and Cory can think up what he's going to do.
This fucking sucks. Oh, this sucks so much. Oh man. Shit.
Hold it together, Cory. I'm putting a minute on the clock, and I'm gonna pitch you guys something that's been that I've been enjoying. So minute on the clock and go. So the show that I'm pitching is, I think, a show that a lot of people are probably on the fence about because there's been a lot of versions of the show recently, from that Karate Kid show, whose name is escaping me, to the reboot of Sex and the City that I think killed a guy. I sort of only like a third followed that story on the news. But the show I'm pitching is Bel-Air on Peacock. I know. Just trust me. It is genuinely really good. 3 episodes in, I'm quite enjoying this. It's Wait,
why'd you dunk on Cobra Kai for no reason? I'm sorry, continue.
They actually modernized this version of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in a way that feels natural and also respectful of the original show. I really love the cast, and I kind of recognize none of the faces, which is really exciting. A lot of newcomers, all delivering really great performances. Also, Westbrook is caking off of it, so great. I wasn't dunking on Cobra Kai. I just literally couldn't remember what it was called.
Cobra Kai was good. I'm just saying. I overheard you say something. I'm sorry. I was like trying to figure out what the fuck I've been up to.
No, I think Cobra Kai is probably. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm not really like a big fan of Cobra Kai, but I also don't really like Karate Kid, so it was never for me. But I think Cobra Kai is the one that everyone points to as the good version of this. But at every other one, I feel like they've rebooted all these shows that people love. Like, wasn't there a woke Gossip Girl that all of the Gossip Girl fans hated?
I don't fucking know.
I won't pretend to like have a lot of Gossip Girl fans in my life, but I do remember there was an HBO Max Gossip Girl that they threw on my home screen for a while. And yeah, I remember people didn't like that. But this Bel-Air, I promise you, is genuinely good. It is. People going into it, if you're expecting like a straight up sitcom like the original, it's not that. It's definitely not that. The first episode tackles like gun violence, wage inequality, socioeconomic status, that sort of thing, police corruption, all the good stuff that we love in our sitcoms. But it is, like I said, genuinely really good. Cory, do you have an elevator pitch yet? Anything. You read a book or
yeah,
no,
I got something.
What is it? I got to put it on the screen.
Oh, no, I got it. Jackass Forever. I was trying to remember. That? I saw it. And it was
Forever.
Shut the hell up! You talked about the remake from Bel-Air. I don't want to.
I wasn't giving you shit.
No, you did your very sighing in your voice. I can hear
I've reiterated it as I typed it on the screen.
Did you notice that I was also like just didn't say anything during your elevator pitch, even though
What's going on? Why am I being attacked right now?
Just disagree with the entire premise of whatever. Old
man
shakes.
Cory's belligerent ass has a minute on the clock.
It's not even 5. Oh, it is 5. Okay. Ready?
Yes, and. Go.
It was kind of on a whim that I saw this movie where it's hard to describe Jackass without making it seem more ridiculous than it already is, but it's something that I feel like every kid kind of grew up on and really shouldn't have been growing up on, and it's like one of the first shows where we all try to sneak away from our parents that we actually were watching it. And it's weird, I guess, like it's been like close to 10 years, I suppose, since the third one came out. And just seeing all these old men beat the shit out of each other is surprisingly like wholesome in a sense. And if you're like, I'm not saying if you've never seen the show, you should watch it. You definitely shouldn't watch it if you've never seen the show before. But I think if you haven't gotten a chance to go get around to watching it and you like the original ones, I think it's just another great addition to it. They did a really good job with like the younger cast. Jasper from Loiter Squad's in the movie. It's a good time. So it's like weird. I'm like, oh, this is like nice, while people's getting hit in the nuts like just continuously.
I don't know if I ever actually watched the Jackass TV show. I'm aware that it was a TV show. I think I've seen all the movies,
I think going back and I watched an episode of the TV show afterwards, and I'm like, it's just kind of like neutered in a sense, where it's just like they can't really go too far out, and it's mostly just kids beating the shit out of them, which is
also isn't like
still funny.
Lot of Bam Margera, who's also like lost
Bam
his shit,
Margera,
really.
Bam Margera. I think you notice him in one scene of the movie, but
well, that's right. He did shoot a lot of stuff for this, and then they just cut him out. Yeah,
they cut him out. Like I think there was only one like straight up like scene where you see Bam, and I'm like, oh, who the fuck is that guy? Oh, it's Bam. Yeah. Yeah, no, that apparently guy went off the fucking deep end.
I mean, to be honest, it's surprising that more of them didn't go off the deep end.
Yeah, it's surprising. Like, I mean, also like Steve-O, who used to be like just fucking high in comparison, but like now he just seems very healthy and happy, and it's just a very
yeah.
It's like a very interesting thing.
Vegan and
he's a vegan, animal rights activist. He's doing it all now. It just seems like it's like people. I'm like, oh, you made it out the other end of this, and somehow you became better people.
Yeah, I think that those are probably the two ways that it goes. You hear about a lot of old rock stars who either died and didn't make it to being old, or now they all they do is drink juice and like go to sleep at 7 p.m. I don't think if you like live the way that Steve-O did for his 20s and 30s, you can make it to your 50s if you keep doing it if you keep living like that.
And like seeing like an episode where he was just like fucking like napping half the time, I'm like, oh, he's just like fucking high, and it's just like, oh, it's kind of just more acceptable back then, or I guess like no one really. But yeah.
Well, there's that famous like I think it was a magazine cover, or maybe just a picture of him when he was younger, and it's like a pile of drugs, and he's snorting something, and then he recreated it recently.
Oh, I remember seeing
a pile of broccoli or something. I am surprised that he still has like the willpower to jump off of shit and like get hit by little kids. I think I would need drugs to do that if I'm being honest, but I still haven't seen this movie. I do want to see it, but I kind of want to just wait to see it at home. I don't know. Was it a good theater experience?
No, I mean like our theater we went to was pretty empty, so I don't really think you're missing much by watching it at home.
Yeah.
If anything, I think these were like my original like couch movies. That this is why you don't let your kids buy movies off of iTunes. That's how old I am. I used to buy. That's me showing my age.
Didn't you have this on like the PSP disc? Remember when movies
No. I had Borat. I had Borat for PSP, and I think I might have had Four Brothers for PSP. Honestly.
Oh man, what happened? The Sony really shanked that shit.
Which is so weird.
We should all have PSPs today.
We should, and now it's like it's weird. I'm like, oh, the Switch. I'm like, nah, they did that like 10 years ago, but this is just better.
Yeah,
and now Steam's gonna try it again.
NFL Street on the Switch.
Oh, fucking NFL Street! Oh, what a game! What a fucking great game!
All right, should we move on and talk about honestly something that couldn't be more different than NFL Street, and that is the sequel to the Agatha Christie adaptation by Oscar-winning director and actor Kenneth Branagh, Death on the Nile.
And I think since we're talking this early in the episode, I guess we shouldn't talk. I mean, even though it's a book.
No, I'm not doing this. Spoilers. That's ridiculous. This is an old ass Agatha Christie book.
Come on. I felt like I still was like. I mean, I know it's an old ass act, but I didn't read it beforehand intentionally.
The time codes are in the description, guys. If you want to skip ahead to the comic book section, go ahead. I think we can spoil this movie.
No, it's fine. All right. Death of the Nile. Just off the gate, I did like it better than Orient Express. But it is still which is still a real. I mean, I don't know. I liked it better than Orient Express. I don't. Yeah. Orient Express to me felt very like soulless for some reason. Mm-hmm. And maybe because I'm seeing him as his character again, made me kind of accept it better. But I don't know. I liked Death on the Nile a bit more. I think also his was Bookin' Murder on the Orient Express, or was that like unrelated?
No. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I like Book as a sidekick character. I thought he really brought a lot to the film to help balance things out. And a lot of the other cast I thought was really strong besides the obvious bad guys. And it was
my mistake. I guess he was in Murder on the Orient Express. I honestly genuinely don't even remember that.
I genuinely don't remember. I mean, he was like from the train. I'm like, I don't remember you from the train, homie. But I thought he was really good in this. And I thought like the supporting cast besides like obviously evil Armie Hammer was really like just delightful to be around. Except for Gal Gadot. Is she getting worse by the movie, honestly?
I think the thing is, it's easy. And let me see. As somebody who his only acting experience was as an unnamed character in a middle school play, let me not pretend like acting is easy. I'm aware it's a difficult craft, especially when you get to the top 1%. But I suspect based on Gal Gadot's recent performances, it's pretty easy to be Wonder Woman, who's just like stoic and tall and beautiful and a badass, than it is to be like an emotionally complex character like Lynette Ridgway is.
Yeah,
I suspect.
Because it's like the writing around her and like the character itself should be a lot more complex.
Yeah.
For when ladies and gentlemen, I mean, if you're still listening, it's no surprise that she fucking dies.
Well,
like,
yeah, I think from like the whole point of this movie is everyone is gathered on a boat that wants to kill this woman. She's obviously the one that's going to die, and this will sound way harsher than it's meant to sound. I think the movie improves tenfold once Gal Gadot.
I think it's there's another movie about it like this too, but like when you're waiting for the thing to happen, like you're waiting for the title of the movie to actually happen.
It's more than halfway through the movie when our victim dies. It's kind of
and I will say that like I think the beginning part where they're at the club goes on for far too long, and I have never been more uncomfortable about the people doing the fuck dancing. I can't agree with you more there. That's what I meant. Like the fuck dancing. Like you said, it was swing. I don't know, man. It's a
version of listen.
I feel like those people should have been arrested.
People in the 20s still had to wear like full length like suits to go to the beach. They were all sexually repressed, and if you gave them even a slight opportunity to express their sexual desires,
she was
they would
bent
fuck
over
on the dance floor.
They were fucking on the dance floor.
Yeah, that's the only part of this movie that I genuinely believed.
And and I kind of like, okay, I don't dislike the scene, and I guess it does make sense. I'm thinking back on it now, but the beginning war part, and I thought that was well directed. I like the way that it was set up and everything.
Yeah.
But then at the end of it, like when it like kind of did the flash forward, I'm like, did we just get an origin story for this motherfucker's mustache?
Yeah, it's a Poirot classic. I'm big into the Poirot TV show because I'm an Anglophile and I have a real problem. But I don't really I've never really thought that Poirot was a very interesting character. Much like most, to be honest, aside from Sherlock Holmes, I can't think of many main characters of mystery series that are interesting characters. I think by the nature of them, another mystery series that I've been reading a lot, written by a person who doesn't exist. She's been launched into space. We don't think about her anymore. But the Cormoran Strike series is like, tries so hard. The parts of that series, it's Corey's giving me a face. It's J.K. Rowling's mystery book. Mystery series, well written. I do enjoy it, I have to say.
I've honestly never read any of it.
It's fine. You don't need to support her. Don't worry about it. But the part of that book that is really, I find personally, the worst part is every time we dive into like Cormoran Strike's personal life, it's like, I just don't give a shit about this guy. Let's solve the mystery. And that's the same with Poirot. I think it's kind
of a similar thing for me, at least with most of the detective characters. Mm-hmm. Like Sherlock, I don't really personally give a shit about him as like,
I like Sherlock in the books. In the shows,
in the movie, like I just personally don't give a shit about his backstory, honestly. Like he's a dick kind of, and he solves mysteries. That's cool. Like he doesn't need to be like I mean, even like fucking this is a weird cut to in this, but technically it's still kind of the same genre, Reacher, where it's like they kept on going back to his childhood. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. You can tell me it's his brother. I don't give a fuck about his weird childhood where they beat the shit out of other kids.
I did like watching them beat the shit out of a bunch of bullies.
It was fun. That was fun, but it was just like I'm like whenever I was joking around, I'm like, oh, bet it's his brother who died. I'm like, it's my brother. I'm like, come on. Like it doesn't. I don't have. Like I like the whole idea. Guy shows up and I guess give it motivation, whatever. Mm. But like, yeah, I don't know. I've heard like sometimes I'm like, I don't really give a shit about your background. Like Poirot is like, and I mean like honestly, like they didn't have to show that scene at all. He really could have just told. I forget what scene it was where he told her about his wife dying. Yeah, I don't know.
It's also like, there's the part. So Sophie Okonedo plays like, I guess, a love interest of his in the movie, and the whole point of the backstory we get with the wife is to add some tension to that story. But again, like Sophie Okonedo, I do have to disagree with you on one point. I think the only person in this movie that's any good is her, and sometimes Kenneth Branagh. I'm confused by every other actor in this movie from top to bottom.
Book.
He's just like not a character.
He's not really a character, but I mean, I like
happy all the time, and then he dies.
I like is the name Letitia? I can't remember. We were talking about
Letitia, right?
Yeah, I liked her in it, which is more. I think it's more to me. I'm like, I'm not saying she does an amazing job, but I think she does a good job. I don't know, you became very critical of actors in the last couple of months. I don't know what's going on with you.
I feel like I just think this movie is weirdly. I just think it's very oddly acted and oddly cast. I don't understand why you'd cast Russell Brand, who's like not that I'm a Russell Brand fan, let me get that on the record now, but he's basically only well known for just being like a motor mouth. Like all he does is talk. And then he plays a character who doesn't speak until the last 20 minutes of the movie. He's just standing quietly in scenes with glasses on. And then he goes, the first thing he says, and I'm pretty sure I have to go back and double check if this is 100% accurate. Pretty sure the first thing he says is, the body is dead. Like, what the fuck is Russell Brand doing in this movie?
I didn't actually know that was Russell Brand.
Rose Leslie's in this movie and doesn't do anything except for covet a necklace and then get dragged into the ocean. It's very weird.
Yeah, no, that was a weird character. I'm like, I recognize her, and then she's dead. I'm like,
I think because of the success of the first movie and because of how lauded Kenneth Branagh is as a director, might be in a couple weeks Oscar winning for the second time director. I think he attracted a lot of very talented people. I mean, you have to remember, when this movie was cast and acted, Armie Hammer, Gal Gadot were at like the top of their game. This was pretty soon after Black Panther, so Letitia Wright was a big household name. She got like acting legends like Annette Bening, he got acting legends like Annette Bening and Jennifer Saunders. I already mentioned Russell Brand is a huge deal. Emma McCary is probably the most unknown of this group, but even her, Sex Education is like a big show. It's very popular, especially in Britain. And I think
I thought that was Keira Knightley for her, honestly.
She doesn't look anything like
I thought that was Keira Knightley for a long ass time.
I think that's borderline racism. I think you've done a little bit of racism.
Hey, whatever. It's like, you've done worse.
I never claimed otherwise. I went
to the bathroom like, oh, I didn't know Keira Knightley was in anything recently. I'm surprised I didn't hear that she was in this movie. No, it wasn't.
I really want somebody to write the oral history of the set of this movie. Could you imagine a set with Armie Hammer, Gal Gadot, Letitia Wright, and Russell Brand all hanging out with each other?
Pre-COVID too.
It's just like, this is Psychos Anonymous.
It was just, that's not a seen one. Like, why'd you put me in this movie, man? I didn't want to be in this movie.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised you liked this movie as much as you did.
I liked it. Not as much as I did. I think I liked it. I thought it was I mean, I'm a sucker for a mystery.
I love a mystery movie too, yeah.
Yeah. But I thought it was like, I don't know. I definitely think there was a lot of characters, which isn't the fault of the movie. It definitely was
it's an Agatha Christie move to just pack a story full of characters.
And
the same with Murder on the Orient Express. The cast is gigantic.
Yeah, there's so many. Like, and I mean, that's why I think I like the original so much, because of how fucking long it is. But like with this, it was I kind of felt like some of the characters were like, okay, this one offline, and they still look suspicious, so I didn't know, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing with Agatha Christie, and I've never read Death on the Nile. I had read Orient Express before seeing the movie, but mostly because I mean she's the legend of this whole thing. Like, everybody's stolen from Agatha Christie, which we've talked about this before in relation to stuff like Blade Runner, where like everyone thinks that Blade Runner is stealing from everything else, but actually everyone's just seeing all the things that are stole from Blade Runner.
Yeah.
So Agatha Christie stories feel really, if you watch a modern version of them, they feel really simple and overused because everyone's done an Agatha Christie mystery.
Well, yeah, but it's the thing about, I mean, Orient Express, the mystery, and that one was so like, the ending was so interesting because I'm like, oh, yeah, everyone was.
The ending of this story is incredibly lame.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, and that's what I'm like. I definitely think it's not them because it'd be too simple in my mind. I'm like, I think, okay, Armie Hammer was involved. Like, he is too suspicious as a person. But I'm like, oh, I guess like his ex didn't do it because they had the most convoluted plan of all time. And I don't know if that's exactly how it was written, but watching the movie, the insanity at many steps, it was, she fake shoots him, drops the gun, he picks up the gun, runs down the hallway, shoots his wife, runs back, and then shoots himself in the leg. I'm like,
it also is like, could have gone wrong so easily. If anybody even looked at his leg before, they'd be like, so you're not shot, by the way, guy.
Yeah, no, it's like,
your leg's good, so we're good here.
Yeah, like, it's like, you're fine.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I don't think you can't criticize the movie for the story. I do think most of that, based on the accuracy with which Murder on the Orient Express was adapted, I imagine this is also pretty close to book accurate. But I still found the performances so...
Well, that's my thing, though. I think some of them were good, but some of them were weird. And I was like, I'm like, so we've seen Armie Hammer be good in things. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like,
I think Armie Hammer is actually not terrible in this movie. I don't think he's good, but I also think his character is boring. I think he's got a boring part.
I think it might have been like the character itself was a bit too. I mean, he fucking had a mustache to twirl. Basically, none of it was really believable. It was like he's poor now, he's marrying this rich woman, and like of course he's gonna be fucking involved.
Yeah, it's also it becomes even by like process of elimination, it becomes pretty obvious who it's not very early on. Yeah. So it leaves like 3 people as suspects, and in a cast of like 20 people. So for a movie with so many suspects, it's like 10 minutes in, it's obvious that it could be one of 3 people, and then it turns out it's 2 of those 3 people. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of, I've always been a little, what's the word? Not hesitant. I kind of don't believe the Kenneth Branagh hype.
I mean, I've never really seen anything that I thought he was like an amazing director for. Personally, I haven't seen all of his movies.
I love his Shakespeare stuff, but also I love Shakespeare. So again, it's like, can you really credit him with how good Hamlet is, or like how good Henry V is? Probably not. But it does take. I mean, there are bad adaptations of Shakespeare, so I'm not taking it away from him or anything. It is saying something that he is nominated for a movie this year, Belfast, which is not quite the favorite. I think it's 3rd favorite at the time of recording to win Best Picture. And the movies that sandwich that are this, which I think at best is a C+, and
I won't disagree
Artemis
with you on
Fowl,
that.
Which is a unwatchable tire.
Why? He did direct that. What the fuck?
He went Artemis Fowl, Belfast, Death on the Nile, and I think that's sort of the story of Kenneth Branagh in a nutshell.
I feel like Death on the Nile has been done for a while, though.
Yeah, so I guess
I wonder if Belfast was like in production, like.
Yeah, it's likely that actually you're probably right. I think he probably did Artemis Fowl, Death on the Nile, then Belfast, which is even more confusing, honestly.
Listen, he learned from his mistakes in Artemis Fowl.
I guess it is like that is a steady lineup at least. Yeah, Artemis Fowl is definitely worse than Death on the Nile, and Belfast is definitely better.
Would you want to see another one of these? No, do you think you're done with?
I just don't think this kind of movie works as a movie anymore. Maybe
you need a TV show.
I think with this many characters, I mean, we talked about a lot of them, but just to run down the cast of this movie, who are big names. We have Kenneth Branagh, Armie Hammer, Gal Gadot, Tom Bateman, Letitia Wright, Annette Bening, Russell Brand, Emma McKay, Rose Leslie, Jennifer Saunders, Sophie Okonedo, Dawn French, and then I guess a newcomer. I don't recognize him, but he's probably a big deal Bollywood actor, Ali Fazal. That's too many people to fit in a already, like, honestly pretty long movie for a mystery. Is 2 hours and 7 minutes, which is long.
But I did have a good time the entire time at least for me. If you want to watch a mystery, I would recommend it. I'm not saying it's gonna be the best, but it's like the detective movie, I think it's hard. And
it's a genre that people don't do anymore for a reason.
Well, except for Knives Out.
Yes. And Knives Out too. I mean, we'll see. The Netflix of it all already worries me.
Yeah, me too.
And a movie like that was so
I hope they put
subversive of the genre.
How do they subvert it again?
Right. I think it's very hard to follow up a movie like that in particular with a satisfying sequel.
I would honestly be fine with just like a straight up mystery though. That's just me.
I think I agree with you, but I think we're in the minority. I think people go into Knives Out to expecting their mind to be blown again which it's always hard to do. I mean, some of things it's impossible.
With Knives Out, though, I never felt like my mind was blown. No. It was just, to me, I'm like, oh, that's a very interesting way. And then I'm like, oh, wait, the mystery for this movie's over. What's going to be the last part about it? And then at the end of the day, there's still the whole everyone meet in the parlor scene kind of situation.
I also think the thing about Knives Out, too, is that the cast, at least on the surface, looks better than the cast of this movie, which will be a benefit.
Yes.
I mean, has Dave Bautista ever made a bad movie? Even that movie where he was like running around the West Ham Stadium, I really enjoyed.
I think Dave Bautista makes a lot of good movies, but I don't think he's definitely been subject to some horse shit. I watched Bushwick.
You know what? I forgot Army of the Dead existed. So yes.
Yeah, no, that's stop making movies with Zack Snyder Bautista.
But I do find that even like that movie Stuber that he was in with Kumail Nanjiani,
was that good?
Which should have been horrible. It's like pretty fun. It's like a silly, dumb action movie. and he's
See,
good.
I think he's one of those people. I'm like, yeah, I think he's one of those people. I'm like, oh, this movie's shit, but he's gonna be good in it, kind of person. Yeah. Where like, I don't think he's gonna be bad at it. It's just the movie around him's gonna be shit.
I don't think there's any chance that a movie starring Daniel Craig, Dave Bautista, Catherine Hahn, and Edward Norton, among others, is gonna be bad. But I worry it's not gonna be what people are really hoping for.
I am fucking excited for Edward Norton and Daniel Craig to be on screen together, and I never really thought about that till just now. But I'm very excited to see whatever plays off of his insane Southern accent.
Yeah, it's got real like Birdman vibes where he's just fucking around with Michael Keaton, which I think that's one of my favorite Edward Norton performances, where he's just an insane actor.
He's playing himself. Yeah.
Let's hope it's a exaggerated version of himself.
I think he did come in an interview. He was like, yeah, I basically was playing myself. Because I think he got like humbled apparently after something, and I think this was post him getting fired from Incredible
Hulk. Is it after
Hulk.
the Marvel stuff?
Yeah, I think it's like afterwards. And I feel like maybe you look yourself in the mirror and be like, I just lost myself many millions of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Ruffalo's got one of the easiest checks in Hollywood, and then and on top of that has become a very respected actor. That could have easily have been Edward Norton.
Yeah, he's just chilling. I think he's also going to be in a Disney Plus show coming up, so you know.
Yeah. Do we have anything else to say about
No, I don't think so. I think me personally, I want more detective movies, but I think
I agree. I know. I love this genre. I just don't know if it works that much anymore especially when like the like real life murder mystery documentaries have gone insane. Especially in England. We're not as like obsessed with them in America, but like the English TV, like every single week there's a new prestige detective show in England. It's kind of their bread and butter on BBC and ITV. So we're pretty oversaturated with this on TV. And I think that's why it's not so much in movies anymore, is it sort of shifted the genre. I mean, besides like movies, Knives Out.
Yeah, I think the only
successful one.
Only benefit of having a movie is because like they usually get a bigger cast. I think like you just get more popular names. I think that's really the only benefit of doing it as a movie.
And I think that becomes less and less the case as the years go on.
Yeah, as more and more becoming
actors going to TV.
Yeah, I mean, people realize they get more paychecks and also become a lot more household recognizable whenever they hop into it, you know. But yeah, let's take a quick break. How about that?
Take a quick break and we'll come back and talk about some comic books.
Oh, you were finished. Oh, well, allow me to retort. What does Marcellus Wallace look like?
What?
What country you from?
What?
What ain't no country I ever heard of? They speak English and what?
What?
English, motherfucker! Do you speak it?
Yes.
Then you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
Describe what Marcellus Wallace looks like.
What?
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker. Say what one more goddamn time.
He's black.
Go on.
He's bald.
Does he look like a bitch?
What?
Does he look like a bitch?
No!
Then why you try to fuck him like a bitch, Brett?
I didn't.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did, Brett. You tried to fuck him. And Marcellus Wallace don't like to be fucked by anybody except Mrs. Wallace. You read the Bible, Brett?
Yes.
Well, there's this passage I got memorized. Sort of fits this occasion. Ezekiel 25:17. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness. For he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
And we're back.
What's up?
All right, we're going to talk about some new comics from Marvel and Image. We originally had we're going to talk about the end of the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, the Tom King book, but I think based on the time we're at now and we got a few comic books we want to talk about, we're going to save that because it's worthy of a a bigger conversation. That book is pretty fucking amazing. So we don't want to short shrift it. So if you, I highly recommend you go pick it up, read that, so that we can talk about it at a later date. But let's jump into this, Corey. Let's talk about the first up on the list, the new book from Alyssa Wong, Michael YG, and J. David Ramos, Iron Fist #1.
Yeah.
A new chapter in the Iron Fist mythos, as the book cover says. Corey, you want to run down quickly what the hell this book is? Why it exists?
Oof. I think Iron Fist as a brand has struggled since the Ed Brubaker, Matt Fraction era. Yeah. David Aja book. And that was like in the 2006, 7, or 8. It's been a long time. And I think each like series afterwards, at least to me, has never really reached any bit of like the coolness that series had.
It's entirely possible, and this is a theory that I hold, that Iron Fist, like literally how terrible the Iron Fist show was, is why we have Disney Plus original Marvel content right now.
That I think, in a weird way, I mean that's a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it is, but I think that should tell you everything you need to know about how unsuccessful this product has been for Marvel.
Like I definitely believe that if Disney bringing over the Netflix shows to see, I don't really know who they're gonna bring back, but I would be surprised. I'm forgetting her name off the top of my head.
Jessica.
Yes, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they brought her in and just kind of forgot about.
We just speaking of Knives Out too. She's gonna be in Knives Out too. She's definitely catching a big wave right now. So I
Matrix and that.
Yeah.
I think you're plays Bugs right Bunny.
We don't need to talk about Matrix 4 anymore.
Okay, sorry.
We don't need to.
But yeah, no, so it's been like a while. So I guess it's like finally, and I think they've done this before where they're like trying to figure out a whole mantle passing thing. Just off the basis of Iron Fist's power, it kind of just makes sense that someone new can show up at some point.
Yeah. And
what I'm guessing is going to be this book is going to be very like mentor-mentee kind of introduction, because I like Danny Rand as a character, and him and Luke Cage are always great. And I like the fact that I like the way that they kind of set up this new character, but the whole thing about it is like they keep being like, who's this new Iron Fist character? And like, no, it doesn't he's not anybody, which is one of those selling points, which I'm very okay with just being like a new Iron Fist, but like, and I get for sales.
Don't build it up like it's a reveal.
Yeah, and I thought and it was just like, I was like, oh, it's just some guy, and like that's fine. That's really okay. Like, I mean, the background sounds like it's gonna lead to something interesting, and I kind of like the way that they planted seeds for things. And as like a #1 issue, I think it's solid if you want to go for the standard superhero fare, but it didn't really do a lot, which I think is really difficult for a #1 issue, especially like a comic book like this who's like building on a new character. If you don't really get the people, I mean, I'm gonna keep reading it because we do this podcast and I like to stay up to date on things, but I can't imagine if I didn't do this podcast I would be paying attention to this book anymore. And I kind of hope it like pans out some more, but I mean, I love me some good old kung fu action comic books, but
I think it's tough. We were talking about this in the break, especially in relation to Supergirl, which, like I said, very good. Go pick it up. We will be talking about it later, but
yes,
it feels risky. Might not be the word, because obviously you give Tom King a book, you attach Supergirl, who's like a pretty close to household name, to it, and you get an amazing artist who's like relatively established. She'd worked on some stuff with DC before in the Sandman universe. It's not a risk, but it does feel like something that's not really boilerplate. The problem I have with Iron Fist is it's so boilerplate.
It is. It's very it's just like, I mean, it's very like paint by the numbers, unfortunately. Which,
and it feels like every Marvel #1 we've read for the last like 2 years has felt exactly like this book. Even ones that I liked the writing in, it's the same sort of art style, the same sort of character development, the same sort of villains. And
well, I think it's like, I mean, it's the superhero. It's the main superhero thing though, because like, I mean, Supergirl, the book that we are going to talk about in the future, 8-issue miniseries, really good. That succeeded because it's a miniseries, and like it's very unclear if it's like even set in our continuity. It's like, and I think that succeeds because like, and Marvel should do that, but I don't know why they don't do that, but they should do that. But I think
the answer is there's not a lot of money in adapting those.
But I mean, we saw the same thing with like Monkey Prince recently from DC, where it's the same concept though. It's the same. It's the same. Yeah. And I think what the problem is with these in continuity characters who they're trying to build up as like a new thing, you kind of had to do this unfortunate half reset plus quick origin story thing, and it's
so
hard to
juggle. This. Do you think you have to? I know they do. I know
you can do it. I think you can do it. I think there's two ways to do it.
Yeah.
And if I think you should do this way, and I don't think this is a bad way to do this. I think it's just one of the ways you got to get shit out of the way. It's like depending on how much you want to have. I'm sorry, my camera keeps flickering, guys. I got to figure that shit out in the future. I think like the problem is, I fucking lost my own train of thought. Is that like if you have a character like this, a brand new character, be like, who the fuck is this person? You can drag it out for 5 issues, intertwining a story and keeping the mystery up, and that's fine. And also I don't mind this either because sometimes I don't really give a shit. I don't really want. Just give me to the fucking character. But like let's say like Jane Foster Thor, half like the first year of those books was just who the fuck is this person, but you still had a good story. But unfortunately, I mean, maybe I missed the book this guy's in initially. It sounds like he was in some book or something. But I'm not aware of it.
That either of us have read.
Yeah, they didn't even give us an editor's note about who this guy might have been in before. So that was a weird choice. I'm like surprised the editor didn't leave that in. But I don't know. I think it's just like this book to me it's fine. It's like not good. It's not bad. It's just fine.
Yeah, which I think is weird because I actually do like. I haven't read a lot of Wong's stuff before. The book that I know her from is she did Sensational Wonder Woman, which I really enjoy. I think that's a book. It's kind of the opposite of this. That feels like it's taking some risks. That's doing some interesting things with a character that we're all really familiar with. So I don't know if this is Wong's. I don't know. Fault is not the right word. It's not a bad book. I think I'm relaying a more negative impression of my feelings on this book than I think is deserved. I thought it was pretty. I thought it was like okay. It's interesting. I like you will probably read at least the next couple issues just because I think this character could have some legs. But
I'm also happy he's not white again. I mean, that's another good thing about it.
I did find that like I know the reference, of course, is like kind of the point of the character. It's like look at all like he's a reference to all of this time in kung fu movies where it was like a bunch of white guys running around doing basically like Asian exploitation films kind of.
And I mean like it did kind of tie in with Luke Cage's character who was started out as a blacksploitation character in the Marvel universe.
Right. But the time for white Iron Fist is done. We're past
that, honestly. And I mean, I was mentioning Che before the episode. I'm surprised it's not Shang-Chi. I'm surprised they didn't do it, but at the same time, I get why they didn't do it because of the movies like that. But I'm like, that would have been to me a good direction to have done it in. Yeah. And I mean, like, I'm fine with this new person. Like, it's cool to like see this. Like, I like seeing magical society, blah blah blah. But like, thankfully, because I mean, whenever you go there with Danny Rand, everyone's like, "Get the fuck out of here, Whitey!" And it's just like, I'm happy to see someone who actually can be a part of the culture, and it's not like a weird thing. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's really weird that Danny Rand was white and the Iron Fist before him was white for inexplicable reasons. But you know, still go read that Ed Brubaker run. It's really fucking good.
I think there actually have been some pretty good Iron Fist books for a character that I think has been pretty unsuccessful.
The Power Man Iron Fist series that came out a couple years ago was really good. Where like
I liked the Carrie Andrews book from I think 2019 or something.
He's a really good side character in my opinion, and I think he just struggles holding his own book. But I think he's always like very good in like the sidekick or supporting character role.
I mean, the truth is, martial arts works in comic books. Like it's visually very interesting, and martial arts characters seem more relatable than Superman. And I think that's kind of to boil down their success into, I think, a very simple formula. Looks cool, doesn't feel like gods running around is why they work.
And it works really well in like comic books because it's all posing, which is why like Spider-Man is like a character, like the way that he is, because he just looks interesting in different poses when the way they do things. And with like, I mean, I will say this, I think the art composition and the way that they did like the martial arts for the most part, I thought that was really well done. It's not the best that I've seen for sure, but I thought for the most part, I thought it was really well done. Like not
I find this art to be like this art style.
It's fine. It's like clearly this person.
It's competent but not interesting.
I think
always my problem.
It's not necessarily my style. It's like especially like face drawings. But I thought like at least like body position at least was good enough. Also, I do like the new Iron Fist's costume. I'll also put that.
No, the costume design is
pretty cool.
I wonder if that is a decision that Wong and Michael YG get to make. I wonder.
I'm I'm sure they got to design it. Because, I mean, I think him having black hair was definitely on purpose. Just because, like, first off, you know it's not Danny. And it's, like, most likely going to be an Asian person of Asian descent. Because we can move. We don't have to do this anymore.
Do you think there are people that are mad? You think people that are mad that Iron Fist is Asian now?
Of course there's someone who's mad. Yeah. There's always somebody who's mad, Jay.
You guys got Batman, don't worry. Batman's never going to be
actually, there is a Batman.
Yeah, but that's not Batman.
I know. But
his book is called I Am Batman. That's not Batman. Don't worry about it, guys.
Jay, he says he's Batman. If he says he's Batman, he can't be lying.
I can say I'm fucking Batman, but that doesn't mean anything.
That's fair. Okay, let's talk about another book that's I mean, this is nowhere near comparable. I was about to say like violent, but Iron Fist is not violent.
No, Iron Fist is Disney violence.
Yes.
And this is
A Righteous Search for Vengeance.
This is HBO Max violence.
Yes. We're on issue number 5 of A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance.
And it just keeps. Speaking of like, if we're just talking about just straight up art.
Yes.
Taking the stories out of comparison. This is what I mean when I'm saying like, not boilerplate. I love what Remender and Andre Lima Araujo are doing here. It's such. I mean, one, it's a lot of faith in the audience. I mean, these books have like 10 words in them. There's almost no speech bubbles.
There's no exposition for the most. Yeah, there's like never any exposition. There's like brief conversations. I'm like looking through the book, and I don't think anyone speaks more than like 2 to 3 sentences at most. And it's a lot of faith in your storytelling ability, and not just that, it's a lot of faith in your story. Because this type of storytelling doesn't work if you don't have a compelling narrative arc. And I'm gripped. I really want to know what's going on here. Every single page, I turn the page and I'm like, what the fuck's going to happen next? We talked about this first issue a while ago, and I remember thinking it was sort of like a roller coaster ride that you didn't know the next turn. But it was like the beginning of the roller coaster ride, I guess, because it's only gotten more and more insane as these books have gone on. Yeah, it's gotten more insane. Like we haven't also gotten like much of an explanation for what's happening. Yeah. And I think that's a really interesting way to do the story. And like even when they tell us, I'm like, that's gonna be fine. It's like doesn't matter though. I think like in this kind of situation, it does what only comics can really do, where you can just kind of rely on, because I mean movies and television do this, but it's like I think it's harder for to keep people's attention like they've done in this. Well, speaking of like movies that this makes me think of, it reminds me a lot, not action wise because the action is quite different obviously, but it reminds me a lot of a movie like John Wick, like that sort of genre where you're sort of thrown headfirst into a world and a conflict without really like any like moorings, and you just have to believe that the charisma of your main character and the story you've built around them, which again, Recommender has done an incredible job here, is just going to keep the flow going. Like John Wick, until you start to get the second and third movies where you're getting more of a backstory into the world, which I do find very interesting. But the first John Wick movie is like, guy's dog is dead and rampage starts, and like there's not really a plot or there's like real explanation of things going on. And then you get hints about this other like underground world, but it's like, okay, that's interesting. Apparently there's something going on here. But you're right, this is very John Wick if John Wick was like incompetent. Yeah, it's John Wick's first mission. Yes. And even then, I don't know about that. We still have no end in sight. On the Image website, there's a volume 1, which will be the collected 1 through 5 is going to be coming out on March 6th, but we do have 6 and 7 coming, so it's going to continue after volume 1. Have already been announced. I'm sort of surprised this isn't a mini-series, or at least an announced mini-series. I can't imagine this goes on for like 20 issues. I don't know how it could. It probably will, though. I mean, Remender to me is like, I don't really know if I have a bad or good thing to say about Remender. So I think it's just one of those mixed bag things where I've read some of his books, so I just didn't really like the ending. But I will say this, I don't think I've ever been bored reading his stories. I also, besides Deadly Class. Much like Tom King, who we were going to talk about him on this, he's quite varied. I mean, at the moment, he's writing this book, which is very, as we already talked about, very quiet and deliberative, and is quite,
not slow pace isn't the right word because it is very exciting, but is like not crazy. And also is also currently writing The Scumbag, which might be the most wild book I've ever read about the worst man on earth getting superpowers. And it is the fact that he could be writing these two books at the same time is just fascinating to me. I can barely write one thing at one time. And the idea that he can have these two stories bouncing around his head is pretty fascinating to me. One, I think, is way, way, way better than the other. I find Scumbag really fun, but A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance is like sort of like nothing I've ever read before, as we talked about in the first issue. It's unique in a way that I don't know if any of other Remender stuff is.
Remender stuff usually like definitely holds on to a lot more like more of the fun vibes of things for sure. Like his I think his Venom series is one of like my favorite Marvel comics of all time. But it's just like I'm not saying it's a deep read or anything like that. I think it's just a lot of fucking fun.
I know I'm putting you on the spot. Do you have a best or favorite Remender?
Damn it, it's not fair.
I'm only asking because I think if before Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, or even before it got like we're pretty deep in now to this book, I would have said Seven to Eternity personally. I think that's
I think mine's probably Venom to
Yours is Venom. I know a lot of people probably would say Deadly Class. I'm not a big Deadly.
I'm not a Deadly Class guy before it. I've put that on record before that I've just like it's not really for me. I think it might be his X Force though. That was just an incredible fucking
Uncanny
comic.
X-Force?
Yeah, that was just a really, really good...
I never read his Cap run. Is his Cap run any good?
It's fine.
Yeah.
I think Brubaker's like Cap run is just too good to really touch. But it's like Uncanny Avengers is really good too.
Poor anybody that tries to follow up Ed Brubaker. Man, the man's a fucking legend.
That Cap run is so fucking good, and he's like kind of does that then rolls out. And
it's just good news for everybody else that all he does is write
crime
solo IP stuff now. Yeah, he's not fucking around with DC or Marvel anymore.
I mean, that's the one thing about the Brubaker run. We might have to touch on it at one point. But the one fun thing about his Cap run is it's just a spy thriller. But clearly that's what Winter Soldier took it from. But it's like, what if the Winter Soldier story was just better? Because it can't, not in a bad way, but like you got. I know what you mean. You can do more in a fucking comic medium than you can on film.
Yes.
Should we move on to our next comic?
Yeah, last of the new comics, we've got New Burn, which is a book. I can't remember if we ever did talk about the first issue or not, but it's a book we've been trying to talk about since either we did or didn't talk about the first issue for a while. It keeps getting pushed. This is the Chip Zdarsky, Jacob Phillips detective story, but I think calling it a detective story doesn't do it really the justice it deserves.
It's like kind of a reverse detective story. I mean, it's
that's a good way to put it.
Where the main character works for the mob and not not against them.
It's clearly a lot of influence from shows like The Soprano and comics like that too. But Cory, you're a big fan of this. Why don't you run down? I think we're 3 issues in now, or 4.
Yeah, 3 issues in, and I think what's like been the great idea so far with this book is 3 issues in, we've had 2 separate mysteries that have been solved.
Yeah.
And the pacing feels fine. I was surprised to look down. I was like, oh, it's only been 3 issues. I swear that was like we're at 5 at this point. But Zdarsky's does such a good job of like the pacing in it and the storytelling of it. He can mix all of them in. I love how each issue is just a different style of storytelling. The second issue is her like recounting who our main character is by talking with other people, which is always like one of my more favorite tropes of things, where you just have like other people like talk about the characters, where it's always usually like, this guy's a dick, he's an asshole, and it's so tropey, but it's fun.
Yeah.
And I think so far, like, I mean, I think the second mystery too was also really well done. And just kind of to see like his methods of doing things, and kind of a bit more of the reveal of like this underworld conspiracy that apparently they all like meet up and like break bread every once in a while. Really cool. Really cool. I'm a big fan of Chip stuff. Chip
Zdarsky's another guy who will write sort of anything.
And I think like reading his Daredevil, I'm like, I want him to write more like crime stuff like this, because what he does in his Daredevil run is a lot of focus on like Kingpin, but also like a lot of other crime families in it, where like the crime families themselves are its own plot line in addition to like the Daredevil stuff. So I'm happy to see him kind of rely on that and make a book like this.
I love the decision to pair up with Jacob Phillips, who of course artist of one of my favorite current books, the Texas Blood, that Texas Blood, and it seems obviously at the time like an obvious decision, like get a guy who's already making a book like this that's quite similar tonally, and it's also really good, and just get that guy to do the art for your book. And
I think also it's funny. I think the second issue in the first page, it has like the same character design as the sheriff. Yeah. I was like okay, but
it's not similar enough that when artists do like the exact same art, it's like if I find it kind of like lazy, unless the story.
I meant to me at least it seemed a little bit more of like a wink. I
think the art is similar enough that obviously Phillips has a style that I think works with these kind of stories, but also different enough that it doesn't feel like somebody's copy and pasted the character.
I think it also does help though that he's setting this in a city now, not like the barren desert of Texas. So I think it does a good job of being in such a different environment that it works out pretty well.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm again, New Bern is another book that I'm sort of fascinated. It's not a miniseries, but I guess based on the pacing of it, like we've got, as you said, we've got 2 mysteries so far. I think probably the third one will be solved pretty soon too. This could go on forever. It's not one single mystery the way I thought it was going to be from issue 1. There's no reason that we couldn't have New Bern be the next Shaft of the Image universe. Just
that would be fun.
Although I guess he's even worse than Shaft as like a human being.
He doesn't seem like a good human being, and like each reveal more of his story or backstory is just more interesting. And I'm like, okay, wait, why? So he was a cop, and then and it's just like so much little cool shit that we're learning as the story progresses.
Does Chip Zdarsky do straight heroes, or are they all anti-heroes? Other than his like superhero work, obviously.
Oh. Not to my knowledge.
I think he really loves an anti-hero, or at least like a really fucked up hero, like sex criminals. I guess they're anti-heroes.
Daredevil starts out with him accidentally killing somebody and dealing with that, and he's still kind of dealing with that. I think he finally kind of took up the whole I can be Daredevil again in the last 5 issues after 30 plus issues. So
yeah,
he definitely for someone who is I'm on his newsletter, which I didn't even know people actually did still, but I'm on his, and it's he seems like a very different man than the things that he writes.
How do you have I don't even check my emails anymore. How do you have a newsletter?
I had to check because I gotta check my email, man. I got people fucking my job.
I check my work email, but
I just put them all in one place.
Yeah,
I'm a psychopath.
Fair. That's fair.
Send me your ads.
Anything else to say about these 3 books?
No, I don't think so.
I think we highly recommend.
Yes.
I don't want to speak for Corey. We highly recommend New Bern and A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. I say if you're a fan, go check out Iron Fist. We'll probably if it gets really good, we'll check back in. But
yeah, give it a couple issues in my opinion. I think nowadays people write for trades more than anything. So I think
you think that's the case for superhero books as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think they probably, in my opinion, this is what they do. They 5 issues. This is what your trade is, and they want you to sell your first issue a lot. And unfortunately, it is shitty, but that Iron Fist will sell for a lot more. It'll probably be put in a lot more orders with the whole who's behind the mask.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I understand that all this stuff, despite the fact that we want to talk about the art and the storytelling and the all that stuff. It's still a business. You got to move issues. That's why there's 700 Star Wars books that I still do not believe anyone's reading.
And I think I told you this. I don't remember if I told this whole thing I read about with Marvel Comics, but a writer was talking about he wanted to do this certain book. But the way that Marvel works is that they have a marketing team who comes up with the we need to make books about this thing. So it's really hard for people to come in and pitch books because they're we gotta this is what you're doing basically, or this is so it's hard for artists to kind of get in and do stuff like that. So I'm sure whatever marketing things thought that they needed to do a new Iron Fist series, I'm sure somebody came in with a pitch for this or something.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but it surprises me not at all based on the output of Marvel. They give, it's obvious that their big names get their big name artists and authors get more leeway than other people, but if you just look at any given week from Marvel, it just feels like the output is so calculated. I mean, what the fuck is Marvel's Voices legacy?
Well, Marvel's Voices legacy is it's for like newer comic book creators of for like usually like people of color or women who are like so it's like people, not white men, who are doing comics, and it's kind of like it's like
stick them with all the characters nobody wants to read. And Sam Wilson. Sam Wilson's here too.
I'm just saying what the fuck it is. I'm not saying
no. I'm not giving you shit. I'm giving Marvel shit.
Yeah, no. Hey, listen, it's better than nothing, honestly.
Listen, but again, I mean, I know we've sort of become like the shit on Marvel guys, but they've got some good shit. I mean,
I don't do that. That's you. I don't shit on Marvel.
Stop! Don't put it on me.
I'm annoyed with Marvel, but I don't shit on Marvel.
I will say this week the Kelly Thompson Black Widow run continues to be fantastic. Kelly Thompson, I think one of my favorite writers working for Marvel right now. That book is really good. And
I've been talking to
Venom also bangs, obviously.
Also, I've been saying it to death, but Daredevil and Devil's Reign is really good.
I just gotta read too much to catch up.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Just read Daredevil. Just read it. Read it slowly.
I know.
It's a good fucking comic.
I know.
Apparently, also Moon Knight's also been pretty good. I'm a couple issues behind, but the new Moon Knight run is actually pretty damn good.
I read issue 1 of that, but I haven't. I gotta catch back up. So we'll keep talking about comics.
Why isn't Spider-Man good? Why can't they make a good Spider-Man book? Why is it so difficult? Spider-Man Miles Morales is good, but like, why can't there be a good Peter Parker book? It's like
I think it's the sort of the Batman issue, although because there's even more Batman, every once in a while a really good Batman book still comes out. Yeah. But Spider-Man's so oversaturated that everyone wants to try a new thing. I remember when J.J. Abrams tried to reinvent Spider-Man.
Let's not talk
2
about
years
that.
ago,
We don't talk about that.
It was the worst book ever.
No, J.J.
I just think people get so in their head.
J.J. Abrams' son. He did not have anything to do with that.
That's right. He was credited as like a co-producer on it or something, right?
For like the co-writer for the first issue. And I think his name was awful by the second issue.
Bounced.
Yeah, because it was fucking god awful.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I do genuinely think that's the problem, is that there's just been a lot of really, really great Spider-Man books, and every new Spider-Man author tries to do a new thing, and it's just hard. It's hard. I imagine it's hard to write a book about a character that's been so well explored as Spider-Man and not feel like, one, you're either retreading common ground or have it be bad. And I think that's what happens. Yeah. That's why I Am Batman is so bad. Because there's so many fucking Batman books that are actually good.
The Future State Batman issues were good.
I thought they were good at the beginning, and then they just got weird and not.
I thought it was a really interesting idea that didn't really pan out.
Yeah. I agree. All right, should we take a quick break and then come back and talk about this Jeff Lemire book?
Yep, let's do that.
Our Lord and Savior.
This is Katana. She's got my back. She can cut all you in half with one sword stroke, just like mowing the lawn. I would advise not getting killed by her. Her sword traps the souls of its victims.
Harley Quinn, nice to meet ya. Love your perfume. What is that? The scent of death? Orozco.
Whoa, easy, cowgirl. Ain't that kind of a mission. Have a seat.
She seems nice.
And we're back.
So,
all right. It's time to talk about the Jeff Lemire, Andrea Sorrentino, Dave Stewart miniseries Primordial. This is the team that brought me, all of us, my favorite comic book of all time. I'm happy to say that now. I've sat on it long enough. This is the team that brought us. Did they do anything else besides Gideon Falls, or is this the second thing they've done since Gideon Falls?
Oh, they did Old Man Logan.
Old Man Logan, yes. Yes. But Old Man Logan was before or during Gideon Falls?
Before.
So the
art Jeff Lemire had to do his grunt Marvel work. I'm just kidding.
The art will look very similar. Andrea Sorrentino and Dave Stewart definitely have a style, but of course it's not quite as dark and brooding and strange as Gideon Falls. The thing that they brought over...
Still strange.
Still strange. But the thing that they brought over that I really love is... and I think Sorrentino does this better than anybody else. Or I guess Sorrentino and Stewart. I don't know who's more involved in this. But they do not adhere to the typical panel structure of a page.
No, they do not.
I really love that. Some of my favorite pages ever were in Gideon Falls when Sorrentino was just going wild with how he was laying out story arcs. But yeah, so this is like I said, Primordial, the 6-issue or 5-issue miniseries.
It's
6-issue miniseries.
6-issue miniseries.
Do you want me to run down the plot, or do you?
Sure, you got it. No,
I shouldn't even have given you the chance.
You got it for once. You always make me do it.
That's not true. Listeners, go back and check the tapes.
I think they're gonna come back
I'll
and
come
be
back
like,
on top.
they're gonna
I know I
go.
will. All right,
That's
so
my
basically,
job. I'm the
Primordial.
fast talking, annoying one. That's the entire bit behind the podcast. Who gets mad about stupid shit?
Primordial is the story of basically what happened after the Soviet Union and America launched the animals into space. Well-known story, obviously.
We killed monkeys.
Yeah, we did. I mean, listen, before we launched humans into space.
We killed humans, too.
That one was by accident, though. Still the most
true.
fucked up scene in First Man. Oh, my God.
So good, though.
I know it's coming every time, and I'm like, God,
Ugh.
it's rough. But yeah, so basically Abel and Laika, the names of the dog and the monkey, and I can't remember the third monkey's name. Do you remember?
Is it you? Wait, it was not Abe, right? You said Abe?
The Abel and Laika, the two that I remember.
Oh, I don't remember
third
the
monkey
other one.
there. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't
Basically,
matter.
there
How
are
dare
two
you.
different parallel storylines going on. The dog and the monkeys, I guess, achieving sentience, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, it seems like the fucking monkey had
Sentience. Because
Yeah.
he's been there longer than the dog had been.
Yes, and Abel is too sweet. I hate looking at her face. She's fucking adorable.
And
As the animal lover on the podcast.
I'm going to ask you this afterward. Back in the 1961, back in the other timeline is back in 1961, West and East Berlin. We've got an American scientist and a German scientist or Russian. I'm unclear about where she's from, but they are teaming up to try to communicate with said animals. And they eventually successfully communicate with them. And the animals use that communication to find their way back through space and time to Earth. And then the book ends, which is weird.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the plot of this very weird Jeff Lemire book. I'll say it up front. Not a fan.
No.
Rare from Jeff Lemire and rare from the team that brought me, like I said, quite literally my favorite comic book of all time.
Well, I gotta say this. The art is not what's wrong with the book.
Nope.
I think
It's
the
not
art. So
Andreas
I'm not
Sorenson's
gonna
fault.
say the team. I'm just gonna say this wasn't a good story.
Let me ask you this: is this a more compelling story? Because, like, as you just said, of the two of us, you definitely like dogs more than I do.
Yes.
And I kept thinking, because the bullet of this book, the last page, last frame of this, is a woman hugging her dog that she hasn't seen for 50 years. And I kept thinking, I wonder if this is poignant, because me personally, obviously, I did not care.
I thought it was nice.
But is it nice enough to make up for the fact that this story doesn't make any sense?
No, I just said I thought it was nice. I don't think it was a good story. I think to me personally, I was just more like, it's gonna really fuck me up when Jeff Lemire kills this old woman before the dog can get to. I'm like, it's gonna fuck. I'm like for more. I'm just like, oh, thank God he didn't.
Well, instead he killed the one black person in this book.
Yeah, but he died in the 60s. A lot of black people died in the 60s.
He said a lot of black people died in the 60s. Why does that make it any better?
No, it doesn't. I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's okay. The only reason he died was for a cliffhanger. I'm not saying the story was good, Che.
I'm genuinely confused about what.
I thought maybe the aliens were gonna be a bigger difference or some kind of shit. But
you say the aliens. Do we ever see any aliens?
I don't know. I thought there would be aliens. They don't explain anything. It's just like the animals are in space. They're on some weird, funky spaceship, and they make it back to Earth and then yeah. I don't know, man.
It is.
Was this Jeff Lemire more apologizing to the animals? I think that might have been what it is.
Well, so, okay. I'll give you guys a little bit of an insight to my life recently. I just went to a cake tasting for a friend's wedding coming up. A beloved friend. And his fiance is very cool. Like her a lot. But her friends and I have basically nothing in common. So at this cake tasting, I basically just sat in the corner for 5 hours and they talked about dogs quite literally nonstop for the entire time. And I just thought, like, people love dogs way more than I ever will even comprehend. And I wonder if this is a book that just works if you love dogs. I mean, so people who are watching the YouTube video will see on their screen right now, I have the last page up. This is literally the end of the book. It fades to white. as a woman hugs her dog and says home. They have this like, basically they threw a poster on the second to last page of like a very different style of art with her hugging her dog.
I like the composition of it.
That's the end of the book. I love the art in this.
I love the composition of it. I like the idea behind it. I just thought that like a lot of the stuff in the middle just didn't make it land as hard.
Every time we're on the spaceship, my brain turned off. I don't understand what's going on.
I think they should have
saying, "Are you happy to each other?" It's very boring.
Yeah, and it's like that book. Did you ever read We Three?
I tried.
Yeah, it's the same.
I think I read an issue.
So I think this to me is a better version of We Three. We Three is this weird ass comic book guys where Grant Morrison wrote about some aliens in some giant robot suits. I can't even remember. I just remember it was fucking weird.
It also doesn't help that the art is just way worse than this. Like the art
is it Frank Quitely?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't like Frank Quitely.
Well, it's also like old comic book art's not as good.
It's just I don't think he's that good at art. It's too veiny. It wouldn't make sense. You guys look it up. It's
also the colors are just dog shit in that book. I'm sorry, but yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think there's something going on here that we're at least not privy to. Maybe.
I don't even know that. I mean, I'm a fucking huge animal lover, and I'm like, I love dogs, and I was like, I like the character. Where I like the whole point about the character, like in the middle issues where she's like talking about the dog and like all this shit like that. I'm like, I like that part. Like this is like, okay, she's building up as a character. I like her some more. And I kind of feel like they didn't know what they were doing for the last 2 to 3 issues. And I think
more than that. I think the first issue works because the first issue was entirely set in 1960s West Germany, and this story is good if it's set in 1960s West Germany.
I think if anything, we shouldn't even have seen the old woman until like the last 4 pages. I think we should have left it very ambiguous about what year it is, and then you could have just ended on them embracing again. And I think to me at least it would be more like, yo, who's this old woman? And then the dog remembers her, and then the audience is like, oh, okay. At least to me.
I guess it's also at the end of this, at the end of the 6 issues, I honestly don't even understand what the motivation is of the story. We send the animals into space, and then we get the animals back. Yeah. Is that the whole narrative? We don't find out who
Homeward Bound in fucking space, basically. And I don't like Homeward Bound, but I think someone likes Homeward Bound, and people who like Homeward Bound maybe like this book.
There's a lot of hints to like insidious organizations that we never find out about.
I want to know about the aliens.
Yeah, like I said, there's aliens that are definitely referenced and because we find out in the first issue that something took the animals. Yeah. Something not they got lost. Something took them. So there are aliens supposed to be.
I was expecting some kind of dog alien to be like, now we're gonna take over Earth using your knowledge. And I kind of was like, okay, cool, let's do dog aliens. Or like, I thought the woman was gonna die, and then maybe the last issue would be the animals going on a rampage with a giant spaceship thing. I think that's how We Three ends, honestly.
It's very rare. I mean, this is the second book I think we've read from Jeff Lemire that I haven't liked.
It's like out of fucking like 30 though.
Yeah. No, it's just Jeff Lemire is still the patron saint of the podcast. Don't get us wrong.
This is why we don't play favorites. This is the case.
Well, I also think I think I don't know. It's not interesting for us to lie about if this is good or not. It's not good, and it's not good in a way that I don't really understand how you fuck this up this way. It's so scattered. The story is 3 different incomplete stories.
It just feels like something that like it would they like Image came to him and they're like, can you guys do something for us? And you guys like, okay, here's a 6-issue miniseries probably. That's what it kind of felt like to me.
It's such a missed opportunity. What a weird follow-up to a book that went on for 3 years is how long, or at least it spanned, I think, 3 different years. I don't know if it was 3 full years. And the first follow-up is a 6-issue miniseries that I think is a good opportunity to take this team and deliver something really bite-sized and satisfying. And I love the setting of it. I think the setting is really cool. Like I said, if this entire book existed in 1960s East and West Berlin, and we're talking about the fall of the USSR and all that stuff, I think this book works a lot. I also love the idea that it's surrounding the murky history of the space programs, both the American and the Russian space programs. Yeah. That's another mine that's ripe for plundering. But he basically took the least interesting part about it, which is like animals get launched into space, and then he based it's, you know what it is, you know what it feels like. You ever did one of those creative writing classes where they give you a prompt and it would be something that was very random intentionally, and you have to write a story around the prompt. Yeah, that's what it seems like. Somebody gave Jeff Lemire the prompt, what happened to the animals launched into space, and then he gave us this random story to answer that question.
But I feel like that would be a very fun, like, creative writing, like, idea, though. It just kind of feels like this was like it's Homeward Bound in space. That's all it is. And I don't know. I'm an animal lover and all that shit like that, but I just didn't really get it. Jay, should we send the folks out?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say about Primordial.
I'm
very disappointed. It's kind of a bummer.
Don't read Primordial. Read Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Read Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, and read New Burn.
And read Far Sector by N.K. Jemisin.
Yes, that's the most important one.
About next week. So don't forget to tune in there. Also, points of business before we get out of here. If you've made it this far in the podcast, if you're watching the video, Corey's got the book up there. You can find it. I'm 99% sure it's on Comixology.
It is. I think it's on Comixology. I want to say for $20, and the trade is $30. I think either or, guys. I honestly recommend the trade because of how
it's a book that's good to hold.
It's good to hold, and like sometimes the art itself is just so nice to look at without like scrolling back and forth on a screen. I honestly own both digital and because I'm a fucking crazy person, but you know.
So we'll be talking about that in depth for our book club next week. We also, like I said, later in March, we'll be doing Bulletproof Monk for our Bad Movie Club. Coming up, of course, it's later in the month. We'll be doing our Oscar prep. So if you want to be abreast of that conversation, don't forget to dive into some of those Oscar movies. And most importantly, go follow us on Twitter at Next Time on Pod. If you're watching the YouTube video at the moment, don't forget to like and subscribe. All that good stuff. Tell your friends. If you are not watching the video, the link is in the description. Go check out the channel. We've been pretty faithfully uploading these podcasts as videos. And
one day my camera will be good.
I think the camera's fine today. We got a little bit of flickering, but it's fine.
We're working it out. Now I'm realizing I didn't give enough power source for this. It's okay. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I do look better in this one though, guys. So if you want to look at me looking tired as shit after a long work day, you should go check this out. Yeah. Got Luke Cage in the background.
Luke Cage in the background. We got not R2-D2. Which one is that?
His name is Jim.
Okay.
I made him. He's my son. This will make no sense out of context.
That's why they should go check out the YouTube video.
Like you'll see what I'm talking about.
That seems as good a place to end it. I've been Che.
I've been Corey.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.